What's up everyone? Alex here. Eiyuden Chronicle Rising was a huge surprise when it was announced at E3 last year. The pitch was pretty ambitious, as it promised to combine town building with dungeon crawling rendered in a 2.5D style. But side-scrolling action RPGs bring forth a different set of expectations when compared to turn-based RPGs, requiring masters of a different discipline. So inquiring minds want to know, does Eiyuden Chronicle Rising rise up to the standards of its more anticipated follow-up? But before we dive deep into the game, I want to thank viewers like you who make this video possible. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And I want to hear what you think of Eiyuden Chronicle Rising, and if you choose to pick it up, in the comments below. Eiyuden Chronicle Rising is a side-scrolling action RPG that serves as a prequel to Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes, developed by Rabbit and Bear Studios in conjunction with Natsume Atari, and published by 505 Games, who provided this PS5 review code. You play the role of CJ, a spunky teenager with the goal of scavenging, not stealing, treasures from a cavernous dig site called the Barrows. To obtain the right to do so, CJ will have to earn an entire town's trust by engaging in various quests and activities that'll help restore the town to its former glory. Throughout her adventures, she'll encounter monsters of all shapes, reliable companions, and travel vast distances in order to find fame and fortune. I'm a sucker for 2.5D art styles, so when I saw that Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes was going to utilize it for its primary presentation, I immediately put it on my wishlist. This same 2.5D art style is on full display in Eiyuden Chronicle Rising, and offers us a glimpse of what we can expect in the future. Rising's backgrounds are all rendered in 3D, utilizing a blend of lighting, shaders, and classic parallax scrolling in order to provide depth to the world around you. What's so incredible about it is the amount of detail that you'll come across as you explore new areas, making you want to stop mid-game and inspect every single thing. Even its title screen, while blurred, feels so rich and vibrant that it makes you just want to get into the game right away. It's also a marvel that its sprite work blends masterfully to its environments. While it's still a flat image, the clever use of shadow and lighting add much needed depth to its characters. Alas, all of this talk about how gorgeous looking Rising is wouldn't matter if its gameplay didn't match up to its quality. And unfortunately, depending on what you're looking for, Rising might not be up to the task. I frame it this way because it feels as though its developers want you to play Rising in a very specific way that gets in your way. Rising will eventually give you control of 3 characters, with one button mapped to a specific character. Each character has their own unique strengths and weaknesses. CJ is your all-around brawler, who can hit fast, utilize her dash to get away from any attack, and eventually use it in mid-air. Garu is a slower character, who attacks with a heavy sword but can do longer jumps. And Isha can teleport up and fire 3 magic attacks in succession. Conceptually, this idea sounds really fun. Press the button of the corresponding character to create some unique combos and take down enemies. What makes this infeasible in the long term, however, are the various ways in which the game locks up its responsiveness on purpose. Hitting any character's attack button in rapid succession, for example, will eventually leave you open to an attack, caused by a built-in input and animation delay that makes combat feel dodgy at times. What the developers would like you to do is to constantly switch between characters in order to make up for this built-in delay, which causes the next character to come in and do a link attack, effectively negating any disadvantages you may have had. The problem with this is that link attacks don't feel like they connect well, and it often leaves you in situations that are less tenable. You'll also find this delay outside of combat, particularly when controlling Garu. All of the characters have a floaty jump, which is, most likely, by design in order to help folks who don't usually play games in this genre. Unfortunately, Garu has to recover from his jumps, making you wait a moment before you're able to press any button again. This makes controlling Garu unpleasant, to say the least. And despite his platforming advantage of being able to jump longer distances and later in the game, greater heights, it's never made me want to have him leading the party for a prolonged period of time. Fortunately, the action combat isn't that difficult at all, and it's quite easy to overpower enemies just by taking on the various side quests that you'll gain access to. I've also found that if I just use CJ as my primary character and change to the other two characters only when I needed to, that my experience with Rising's combat and exploration improves dramatically. Granted, CJ is still subject to the same limitations as mentioned, but she's able to recover quite fast, especially if I gingerly time my attacks and not mash her attack button. While it's a shame that Rising's combat didn't turn out quite as I expected, what I did find a lot of enjoyment out of is the one thing that sold me on trying this game out: its town building. However, calling Rising a town builder is actually a bit of a misnomer, as the most you can do to affect the town is to upgrade and build various facilities by completing associated side quests. So, no, you're not going to be managing resources and balancing tax rates with your townsfolk's happiness. That being said, I absolutely love the feeling of being able to affect the lives of people around me, and Rising does a really good job of representing this in both obvious and subtle ways. Various businesses start off as a pile of rubble prior to starting their associated quest lines, and you'll eventually get to upgrade them multiple times, allowing them to offer new and exciting wares. These upgrades are at the heart of how you can stay on top of your weapons and armor for future explorations, and these upgrades are accompanied by a cute animation of a carpenter who is probably making a killing building and repairing all of these facilities. And the simple act of side questing and helping out townsfolk is only made more compelling by a stamp system that the story itself calls addictive. This stamp system is at the heart of what makes the gameplay loop in Rising so much more bearable despite the shortcomings of its combat system. There's an immediate payoff to completing side quests that constantly shows all of your collected stamps on screen while you're in town, and your party members will make sure to let you know of your stamp collecting addiction as you take on more tasks. It also helps that accomplishing these chores is made easier by a fast travel system that lets you warp from the beginning of a dungeon to any of the districts in town. If you're in the middle of a dungeon run, there are signposts that serve as fast travel points within the dungeon, and you can dump all of the resources you've collected at the entrance, which also respawns all of the enemies you've defeated. My only gripe with these dungeons is the lack of enemy variety in terms of their presentation, though similar looking enemies can feature different types of attacks, which provide variety from a gameplay standpoint. The story itself is quite light, perhaps due to its developers wanting you to focus more on your effect on the town rather than the individual characters you interact with. That being said, there is a healthy bit of exposition at the beginning that sets your party up quite well, establishing the different attitudes, motivations, and goals that each wants to accomplish. Their growth throughout Eiyuden Chronicle Rising is going to be important, as it sets the stage for their upcoming appearance in Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. Rising's soundtrack is composed by both Motoi Sakuraba, who's known for his work on the Tales series, and Michiko Naruke, who's known for his work on the Wild Arms series. With the exception of the title screen music, which features a tinny melody at the beginning, I really enjoyed Rising's soundtrack. The tracklist features compositions that not only represent the dungeons you'll be exploring in the game, but also the growth of your town, which is one of the game's primary hooks. And while it's not a huge soundtrack by any means, Rising's soundtrack, much like its presentation and story, offers up a glimpse of what we can expect in Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes. Which leads me to yet another question. Does Eiyuden Chronicle Rising merely serve as a way to whet people's appetites to the main course that is Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes? Why, yes, most certainly. That being said, despite its combat not meeting my expectations, Rising delivers on giving us a unique feeling of satisfaction and joy that only comes from taking on tasks that also affect how strong our party becomes. It's this symbiotic loop that makes Rising such a joy to play. And with the added benefit of getting to know a few of 100 Heroes' characters, I think Rising is a worthwhile coming-of-age story that'll prepare you for an epic adventure in 2023. Eiyuden Chronicle Rising is available on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X and S, and PC. And it's also available on Game Pass. And that's my review of Eiyuden Chronicle Rising. What did you think? I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this video helpful in your decision in getting the game, please consider helping me out on Patreon at patreon.com/BacklogBattle. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.